Hello everyone, welcome back to Human Resources, a module of Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. So today we are going to continue configuring the system so it is up and running at some point when we're executing our tasks and processes within the module. So if this is the first time you stumbled upon this video, then make sure that you do go through some of the previous videos that will help you connect the dots and of course will allow you to actually configure and catch up to what we're talking about in this video. So if you go into the human resources and right underneath the setup, we've talked about the human resource parameters, we've talked about the shared parameters, the difference between the two. We haven't talked about human resource workflow. So within this machine, unfortunately, I cannot open a workflow. So it's simply just restricted for whatever reason. So that's something that I will create at a different instance. But you can figure out how to construct these workflows. It's very straight and simple. But at some point, I will create a workflow, and then we'll get to talk about some of the conditions that are applicable to human resources module. We've talked about the personnel action types and how that ties down with the workflows. So something very important in the HR module, do feel free to go through that video in one of the videos in the previous one that I've talked about. So very applicable to a real life scenario within consulting. And today we're going to talk about the accommodation types. If the time permits, then we'll talk about the employment categories, but accommodation types is going to be our focus for this video. So if you click on the accommodation types, you'll see a list of accommodations. And it's as simple as simply creating an accommodation that is applicable to an employee. Whether that be creating a break or taking breaks or ordering a chair that might be relevant for the employee because for whatever reason they have a medical condition where their neck gets too stiff, so you're ordering that and then you're accommodating them from an HR perspective. So that's what the accommodation types mean. And then I've created a health dietary restriction as a new accommodation for us. So simply click new, put in the accommodation type in the description, and then if you like, you can always add notes to it to talk about what exactly is this accommodation for. Moving on to how you actually assign this accommodation. So if you go into the human resources and employees, you have a list of employees that you can select from and then add your accommodation to. So if you click on one of the employees, go up on compliance and click accommodations, you'll come out with a blank form. In here, you actually assign accommodation. So you click new and we'll select the accommodation type as break. I guess break, it would be the first one. And the job task can be anything. So our base case scenario is basically creating an accommodation for this employee to take breaks while they're working in a manufacturing or a warehouse. So we'll just select manufacturing. And now the status is requested. So select as is, simply save it. You'll see a timestamp that gets created. And we also have to assign this to an employee who has accepted it. Now, the thing with the accommodation is, unfortunately, all the tasks that I'm doing right now, they are being executed as a solo. Nobody is being notified, unfortunately, that an accommodation has been requested, and that's one of the flaws that I would say within this module that is being taken care of at some point by Microsoft. But as of now, this is a simple solo, and if I were to go into this employee as an HR manager, then I can simply go and have this accommodation assigned to an employee. And then I can also say that that it's been accepted by an employee or someone like my manager and whatnot. So I can assign them this task, and they should accept it. So right now, the intention is that yes, Luke should be receiving some form of an email or some form of a notification that their employee or this particular employee needs to get accommodated for, but that's not the case. Right now, it's simply a standalone form where we can have this information stored in the system. So there is no implication of process assigned or attached to this accommodation piece. And of course, at some point, if Luke has access to this employee, we can simply have a notification or some sort of a reminder sent outside of the system if you don't want to build it, because I don't think it'd be a good idea to build and invest something within the system to simply have Luke getting notifications of them assigning a task and whatnot. So that job task actually comes in a bit different within a onboarding and offboarding module of the human resource. So that's where you actually do get notifications. In this case, Luke is not getting any notification for simply accepting this task or simply accepting this accommodation. And you can have a go back and forth between Luke and the HR manager if they have access to it. So this is again a standalone, simply a record keeping for the HR manager in order to accommodate them for their needs and whatnot. With that, we will stop our configuring of this module, and then we'll continue talking about the employment categories in the next video.